Jennifer McClure here from Fistful of Talent, and I'm with Kevin Wheeler at the ERE Expo in Hollywood, Florida. And I just attended Kevin's great session on the future 2010 trends for talent, and got a couple questions for you, Kevin. Thanks for a great session. Tell us a little bit about what you do, since many people may not be familiar with you as a futurist.
Sure. I run a think tank, in effect, called the Future of Talent Institute. It's one of several things I do, but it's sort of becoming the central activity that I focus on. And we try to look out at talent trends for 3 to 5 years in the future, looking at what's shaping the labor force, what's going on in the talent market space, what's happening with work itself and the organizations that employ people. So it's kind of an overall look at that kind of stuff.
Great. From your session today, I found several things fascinating and interesting. One being that you believe that the most important role of the future is some sort of chief talent officer. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, I think if you look historically back at organizations, we've had eras when different functions were really important. And for a while, it was the guy that headed up manufacturing was gone, and everybody focused on that person. And then it became the CFO. And I think for the last 10 or 15 years, the focus has been around the CFO is the most important person. Some people say more important than the CEO in the company. And I think what we've seen or beginning to see is a trend toward the person, probably not the current head of HR, but some new position that's being created that I'm calling a chief talent officer. It's somebody whose responsibility is thinking strategically, long-term about the people that this company or organization are going to need to be successful to meet their business goals. A person that can do the kind of research, quantitative analysis, planning that is going to be able to defend whatever they say about these are the kind of people we should have. We should not have these kinds of people. This work should be outsourced. This work should be turned over to contractors and so forth.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating one. I think some companies are skirting on the edges of that right now. They've got people that have the title but probably don't have either the qualifications really or the political clout to do much with it. But it's a beginning, and I think you're going to see it evolve pretty quickly.
Well, you also talked about the death of macho and the era of the woman being in the future. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Well, it's just really simple. The number of women in the workplace has now exceeded the number of men in the workplace in the U.S. This last recession has been an interesting one because it's primarily affected men. A lot of people are calling it a he session because it only is affecting the guys. And because women are doing more of the work of the future, and by that I mean women are more inclined to be creative, good communicators, and are often quite analytical. And those are the kind of jobs that are emerging, where the jobs that required physical strength or whatever are diminishing. And so this puts women in a wonderful spot inside organizations on the one hand. On the other hand, more women are getting formal education than men. So 2 out of 3 college degrees are going to women. This is not just a U.S. phenomenon. It's happening in several other countries in Europe and Australia. It's happening even in Singapore. So women are more inclined to get a formal education than men. And that kind of leads to the other thing I talked about, which was this rise of entrepreneurism. And, the reason for some of that, sociologists think, is perhaps that men are taking the opportunity to be more entrepreneurial and start their own businesses and so forth. We're seeing a lot of young people, college students, who are really, their first preference would be to become an entrepreneur, to go work on their own. Many of them are saying their first job, they don't want their first job necessarily, to be working for a big company. And that's pretty different than when I went to college. So I think a general trend is the rise of entrepreneurism, coupled, I think, with the fact that women are part of that, but probably a little more conventional in some ways, and therefore are finishing their degrees before the guys do, or instead of guys are not finishing it because they feel more confident about it. But nobody really knows. I'm just speculating. But that's sort of some sociologists' theories about what's going on.
Well, what would you suggest that companies start to do today to kind of deal with the entrepreneurial nature of the future workforce?
I think a couple of things to deal with both the entrepreneurial nature and the women side of the equation. I think a lot of our current recruiting practices and processes are male-oriented. I think we don't think about it, but I think they are. I think a lot of our corporate policies are male-oriented and assume certain things about the work life that maybe aren't true with women who are, no matter how much we don't like it, they are burdened with more of the child care responsibilities than men are, and that's probably biological more than anything. But it's a reality, and so how do you deal with that? How do you change organizational structure for that? So that's part of it. I think we're going to have to look at how, both for men and women, you organize the company. Why do people have to come to a physical place to work every day? Why can't people work more flexibly? Why can't they be given more project-based work to complete at a certain deadline rather than sort of micromanaged around an 8-hour day? So a lot of questions that are being asked, and I think corporations need to wake up and answer this, and I don't think many of them are. Primarily because they're run by guys my age who like it the way it was. So it's going to require a big change.
Well, it's fascinating. You certainly had a lot of great things to say. We look forward to hearing more about what's going to happen in the future. Thanks, Kevin.
Great. Thank you.